Conceptual framework, theoretical framework, two terms you will hear a lot as a PhD researcher. People often talk about them as if they're the same thing, but they're not. They do different jobs. Once you know what job each one does, things get a lot less confusing. Right, let's get into it. A conceptual framework is about your specific project. It's about the key ideas you're working with and how they connect. A conceptual framework answers this question: what are the main ideas in my study and how do they relate to each other? Let's take a look at an example. Imagine your research is about employee performance reviews. Your concepts might be performance reviews, employees, managers, meetings, stress, anxiety, preparation, behaviour, power, interaction. Those are your main ideas. They are your concepts. And your conceptual framework organises how those ideas relate to each other. So let's experiment with a few concepts from that list and see how we could bring them together into a framework. Preparation, stress, behaviour and power could be treated as related aspects of that performance review meeting. The conceptual framework would focus on how these elements appear together and how they interact during the meeting itself. Preparation might be considered in relation to how employees behave within the meeting. So our study might be interested in how differences in preparation are reflected in what employees choose to talk about, in how they express themselves, and in how they respond to questions during that performance review. Stress or anxiety might be examined in terms of how it shows up in the meeting, for example, through hesitation, forgetting planned points, or changes in how employees communicate. Power dynamics might also be central. So the seniority of the manager might be examined in relation to what employees feel able to share, how openly they speak, and which topics are avoided or emphasised. In these different examples, the framework helps us bring these elements together. And they can help us start to think about how all of those things impact the performance review as a social interaction. In those examples we just looked at, can you see how we're bringing concepts together? We're showing the ways in which they might relate to each other. We're going a step further than just listing them. We're showing how they might interact with each other. In summary, your conceptual framework makes two things clear. Firstly, what matters in the study, and secondly, how those ideas interact with each other. Next up, we're looking at theory and theoretical frameworks. If you're finding this video helpful, I am really pleased about that. But I just want to ask you a quick question. Have you subscribed to the channel yet? And Patrick wants to know that as well, don't you, dude? Yes, he does. So if you haven't subscribed, take a moment to go and do that now. And that will ensure that every time one of my videos comes out, if you hit the notification bell, you are informed about it. So you don't have to go hunting high and low for videos. They are going to come straight to you. What could be better than that? So go and take a moment to do that now. Back to the video. For this part, we need to look at the literature. We need to go and take a look at what other people have said about these concepts we're interested in and what they've said about how they relate to each other. A theory is simply an idea about how something works. It's a way of explaining patterns, experiences, behaviours, social processes. Before you come along with your study, other researchers will already have looked at the things you're interested in and how those things relate to each other. And they've developed theories about those things, ideas about how they work. A theoretical framework is what happens when you use one or more of those theories to interpret your research. And a theoretical framework essentially answers this question: which of those existing explanations am I using to understand my topic? For example, if we go back to that performance review study that we looked at earlier, you might choose Irving Goffman's dramaturgical theory. Goffman's theory is about how people change how they act based on the situation and based on the people around them. Using this theory, in something like a performance review at work, people are on show. They are putting on an act for their manager. They might try and look capable and confident and keep worries or frustrations to themselves. You might also look at Amy Edmondson's theory of psychological safety. And this is about whether people feel safe enough to be honest or whether they feel they need to hold things back. So in a performance review, employees are often working out, can I say this here? Or is it better not to? So this psychological safety theory helps you understand how power and workplace culture shape what actually gets said in those meetings. Putting these theories together gives you a fuller view. One of them helps explain how people perform. The other helps explain what they feel able to say. Next, I'm going to tell you how this relates to the rest of your study. What do you do with all this stuff? When you collect data, however you're going to do that, for example, by watching video recordings of performance reviews, talking to people in depth about how their reviews went, or using surveys, you'll start to see how ideas show up in practice. You then ask quite a straightforward question. Do the existing theories about how these concepts relate to each other help explain what I'm seeing here, or only part of it? Some of what you found will be very well explained by those ideas and by those theories. Other things that you find won't, and that is okay. That's to be expected. By the end of your study, usually you will have developed a framework that brings all of this together. And you'll combine the existing ideas in a way that makes sense for your data. You might also develop new theoretical ideas that explain what's going on in a way that the existing theories don't. And that framework that you come away with, that might be something that you write about in a few paragraphs. It might be something that you draw a diagram to represent. It might be a combination of both. But whatever it looks like, it will show people how the ideas work together in the study that you did. And that is where your contribution sits. Whether that is in refining the existing theory, extending it, or in some cases, building something genuinely new for that context. In the next video, we're going to tackle a really important follow-up question. Do you need a conceptual framework, a theoretical framework, or both? Stay tuned for that. I'll see you in there.